My pandas, this is Dr. Sarah speaking here, and today in our lecture we will discuss a very trending and a very hot topic, that is CPI data. This is trending today, and people are very curious about CPI data, but most of people, they don't even have the basic understanding of the CPI, like how it is important for the market, why it is important for the crypto. Today this is 10th June and we are expecting the CPI data. So you should have a basic understanding that how it can influence the market. So in our class, we will discuss in detail that how it can influence the market, what is CPI, why it is important for us, right? So first of all, we will make a very simple concept. CPI stands for Consumer Price Index. It's nothing. It's just a tracker for inflation in the country. So whenever inflation in a country is high, CPI data is high. So higher CPI data means higher inflation in the country. You can say that whenever a person has fever, as you know, I'm a doctor, so I will give you a medical related example. So whenever a person has fever, we use a tracker, we use a thermometer, right? Thermometer to record that how much a person has fever. We record it, and then a doctor decide that which medicine we should use and what should be its dose. So you can assume that the fever is inflation. Fever is inflation. Thermometer is CPI data. Doctor is federal. And medicine is rate cut. Okay, so this is a very simple example. Whenever inflation in a country is high, it means that CPI data is higher. And then federal arrange a meeting and they decide that how much they should do the rate cut. So this is also very important to understand that how these rate cuts, they influence the market and why it is important to reduce the rate cuts during the inflation. So rate cut means to reduce the interest rate, right? So first of all, you have to understand that what do you mean by this interest rate, right? So interest rate, this is, you can say that interest rate on the loan which government gives to the common people, to the businessman in the country. So whenever the interest rate would be higher, people will take less loans from the government, from the federal. Less loans mean less businesses, right? Less businesses. Less businesses mean that less jobs, less money in the people's hand. So when money will be less, obviously buyers of anything, buyers of the goods, buyers of the stocks, buyers of the crypto in the market shall decrease. And when buyers of anything in the market decreases, prices, which you can say inflation, they also decrease. So it means that whenever interest rates are higher, ultimately they decrease the buyers in the country, that reduces the inflation. So I think that it makes a sense to all of you that why interest rates are delayed in inflation, whenever there's inflation. So don't confuse the rate cut with the interest rate, right? So nowadays you can say that inflation is higher. So that's why we are expecting today that CPI data will be higher than expectations Why CPI data is higher? Because inflation is higher. And what could be the result? Ultimately, there is a meeting on 16th or 17th of June. This is a FOMC federal meeting. And you will see that they will not rate cut in this meeting. And according to a report, rate cuts shall be delayed towards 2027. Why? Because ultimately they are trying to reduce the inflation. Okay, so higher interest rate or higher interest rate or no federal rate cut, you can say. This is good for inflation because people will have less money, buyers will decrease. But this will have a very negative impact on the crypto plus stocks. Obviously, when the buyers will decrease, obviously people will have no money. Why they will invest on the risky assets like crypto and stocks? They will sell their holdings in the crypto, and ultimately that can be a bearish for the market, right? So this is the concept of the CPI, rate cuts, and federal decisions, right? That's why I have mentioned that whenever you can say that CPI is just a report card. It's just a report card for inflation, right? And then federal takes a decision about the rate cuts. If there is a news about the rate cut, it means that interest rate will be less, people will be having more money, there will be more liquidity in the liquidity is just a cash to buy things. So when there will be more liquidity, it means that people invest in risky assets like BTC and altcoins, and that would be a good news for the crypto. So there are two types of the CPI. One is the headline CPI and one is the core CPI. So headline CPI includes the charges for food and energy, and core CPI is just related to the investments and all, you can say, the stocks and crypto. So that's why core CPI data is more important for federal and ultimately for us traders, right? So I have explained this. Then I have told you that when there is a hot CPI means inflation is high and ultimately there will be no rate cuts. And why no rate cuts? To reduce the inflation, to reduce the liquidity, to reduce the buyers, and that will cause the bearish pressure on the risky assets, which are crypto plus stocks. Cool CPI is bullish for the stocks. Inline CPI means it's just as expected, so it will create just very slight volatility in the market. So bottom line is lower than CPI. It means that expected CPI means less inflation means. So now the thing that is more important for us is what are our today's expectations. As we know that today is 10th of June, and this is the time that I have mentioned according to Pakistan, Eastern and Dubai timing. So today we are expecting the CPI report. So our expectation are 4.2% and core CPI expectations are 2.8 to 2.9%. If I talk about the last month headline CPI data was 3.8% and this was 2.8%, right? So today we are expecting already more CPI data than the previous month and neutral or slightly higher core CPI data than the previous month. So it already means that inflation is high. So if today CPI data came to 4.2%, so people already have this thing in mind. So you will see very less volatility in market. It can just give a, like one or two sudden candles in any direction, you can say. If CPI data will be more than expectations, for example, we are expecting that it should be 4.2% and it comes like 4.3 or 4.5%. So it means that inflation rate is even higher than we expected. So it means that Federal will be very strict and they will try their level best to reduce this inflation rate. So it means that there are no any expectations of rate cuts in the upcoming meeting. So it means people will panic. They will sell their assets, and it can be a very bearish for the market. And if it comes less than our expectations, for example, we are expecting that it should be 4.2% and it comes as 4%. So it means that people will get some relief and it can be a slightly bullish for the market, right? But that's why tomorrow or today is a higher volatility event, right? But you have to, you should not ignore the key levels. What are key levels? We are expecting a 60. This is our acting as a short-term support level, and 65k and 68k, they are acting as our resistance level. So whenever the CPI data comes, you will see that big red or big green candles suddenly in the market. But this is very dumb, or you can say the stupid decision to enter suddenly in the market looking at the CPI data, because there's a higher volatility in the market, and should avoid the leverage trading. So after the CPI data will be released today, and after some hours market will be stable after the release of the CPI data, and when it will capture the one direction, then we will trade on our levels, obviously, right? Because I will not suggest to you. So that's why I have mentioned very clearly, please note it, that avoid blind entry before the data. Let first candle settle, because first candle can be volatile. Trade after confirmation. Keep your leverage low and protect your risk very carefully. Okay, so this is all that I wanted to tell you about the CPI data. So this is the take-home message from Dr. Sarah from Panda Traders, that trade the reaction, not the prediction. When 100 or 1,000 people are saying that market will be bearish, it will be bullish. Obviously, it will be against their hopes. It will be towards their stop losses. So please keep following Panda Traders, because we will decide our next plan after the CPI data, and we will not be stupid enough like other traders that we will not do the FOMO. Okay, we will not do the FOMO. Okay, and I'm expecting a meeting of Federal on 16 or 17 June regarding the rate cuts. And I am expecting that there will be no rate cuts, and they will delay it, and you will see that the next rate cut we will see in 2027. But in October you will see a very good rally in the market, and BTC will rebound towards 95 or 98k. So that's why 60k and 50k, these are two levels for the spot holders in the Bitcoin, right?